Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metropolis Radio. Today we are taking a look at this article from Screen Rant, and that basically outlines George Romero's Unmade Goosebumps script. The details are finally revealed. The University of Pittsburgh Library System's Horror Studies revealed George Romero's film script based on R.L. Stine's Goosebumps original book. Now we're going to skip the first couple of paragraphs because it's basically, this is who George Romero is / was for those who don't know, and then the history of Goosebumps particularly doesn't really matter to hear. But the article really starts to get going right about here when, Romero's Unmade screenplay was discovered by the University of Pittsburgh's Library System's Horror Studies. The timeline of the project isn't apparent, but it was written in the 1990s, which does make sense given that that's when Goosebumps kind of started and became a phenomenon. Romero's script kept to the basic premise, although he added more depth to it with the use of social commentary, which, for those that don't know, George Romero was quite known for doing that. The earliest, the most famous example from his filmography is actually Dawn of the Dead, and using the shopping mall as like a what happens with like American consumerism or something like that. I do know that I think he sued the people behind the Dead Rising video game for essentially stealing his premise, and then the court ruled against him, basically saying that Dead Rising was just a bunch of smut that nobody is going to care about. But back to the article, read for more on his adaptation. Okay, so here's the two paragraphs on what his adaptation would have contained. Romero retains the basic scenario in all of the major character names, but tweaks the story in revealing ways. In the Stine book, the zombification comes a la Return of the Living Dead. Because of a mysterious gas that escapes from a local factory, Romero makes the capitalistic origins more emphatic. The town patriarch, the wealthy Foster DeVries, has in death possessed the town. The state of living death experienced by the residents stemmed from a supernatural power that DeVries has now shared with / imposed on the town. Romero reimagines Dark Falls as the ultimate company town in which the townspeople are wholly reliant on their boss for their continued undead existence, but the scope of their new quote-unquote eternal lives are highly circumscribed, limited entirely to what DeVries allows. That means remaining within the city limits and feeding him a new family every year. Unlike in the Stine version, the threat here is not that the inhabitants will simply kill them and drain their blood, but that they will be forced to join in the town and quote-unquote live according to the requirements of the town. That means a loss of independence, no possibility for self-determination. Like I said, guys, George Romero was quite known for his social commentary in his horror movies. Another one that immediately pops to the top of my head is The People, I think it was called The People Under the Stairs, and that was all about the latchkey kids. From what I remember now, having passed away in 2017 from lung cancer, Romero's last film was Survival of the Dead. No one can deny that Romero left his mark on both the film industry and pop culture in general with his horror films. Yes, had he not mistakenly not renewed the copyright when he changed the title from House of Anubis to Night of the Living Dead, who knows if we would even be talking about him. While he was primarily known for his Night of the Living Dead franchise, he also made well-known films such as The Crazies and Creepshow. I do remember The Crazies. That just got a reboot like 10 years ago, and the reboot actually wasn't terrible. And the article goes on. It would have been really interesting to see this perspective of the original Goosebumps book on the silver screens while it maintains basic plot, blah, blah, blah. Here we go right here. It completely fits within Romero's zombie horror wheelhouse. However, if this script was commissioned by the studio, and here's where I agree with the author, it's not too surprising that it would have been turned down at the time. Yes, given the target audience for Goosebumps at the time was primarily children, that type of messaging that he wanted to push here would have been way too much for the audience at the time. And we do have the Jack Black movies, which I personally have not seen and have no interest, but I personally would have been very interested in seeing George Romero take on Goosebumps, a more mature take on the book series as a whole. Had not just had he survived, had the studio decided to make this, like, let's say even like 10 years ago, when he was still alive, like after Survival of the Dead, and, have Goosebumps grow up alongside with the audience. I think it would have worked, but again, guys, that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments, and I'm going to go ahead and end it right here because I have gone on long enough, and I don't want to drag this out any longer than it needs to be. And if you guys have been following me long enough, you know I'm terrible at ending these, so I will just see you guys next time.